Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Gallowgateshots podcast. And it is the All Man and Faces podcast, lads, here tonight in what Bessie described earlier as the closest to a must-win game so far this season. Newcastle were on the end of a 3-0 defeat to relegation rivals Brighton. The game needed somebody to show a little bit of fight to take all 3 points, and there was only one winner in that one, boys. I'll come straight to you, Bestie. That was shocking tonight.
Yeah, it's in a season of really, really poor, kind of uninspiring performances. That was by some distance the low point for me. I did before the game started, or maybe early in the game, I said it was probably the most important game of the season, maybe the most important game that we've had under Steve Bruce. And it was a Steve Bruce masterclass in that it was just awful. The shape, the kind of, we'll get into how the goals got scored later on and stuff, but just the apparent lack of effort. It was as bad a game of football as I've seen Newcastle play since Steve McLaren was manager, I would say. It was truly desperate.
Well, we've seen some pretty bad performances this season, albeit against, well, not against worse sides, but in positions as a football club where you didn't really necessarily have that drive and goal of taking all 3 points to get you out with that relegation scrap. Tonight was our chance, Decker, and didn't even look like we're in a relegation fight. Looked like we're safe as houses.
I don't even know what to say. If I'm being honest, I don't want to try and be dramatic either, but like, we said it a lot of times during the live stream that you've got two clubs there two teams going against each other, which are in the same position, right? You know, very similar. You know, and the performances, ability-wise, quality-wise, effort-wise, was just night and day. And we look like a League Two team going to the Premier League club, or a League One side going to the Premier League club, and I was going to say have a go. We didn't even have a go. Like, no, we literally didn't even have a go. We didn't lay a glove on them, and that's, I think, the third or fourth time I've said that in recent weeks. The shape of the team was diabolical from minute one, but I think the thing that's unforgivable is the lack of effort. That's what's unforgivable. I think all of us can hold our hands up and say, you know, sometimes if you lack that thing in the final third or a little bit of quality here and there, but they're putting the effort in, we can forgive that and we can look past that. But you cannot look past that. That's how bad that was. And I think Bestie coined it just before there. That was the worst it's been under Bruce.
Well, you look at Brighton, and I think Brighton are a perfect example where the majority of the season, probably all of the season, they've been in a similar position to us or worse in regards to relegation fights and the bottom end of the table. They wanted that tonight, Mark. We didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a little bit fair on Brighton, because they were probably sitting around mid-table and then they had a bit of a bad run to drop them down into the bottom, just around the Christmas period, like we did. But
similar to us, yeah.
You look at that performance, and there's been loads of analogies from everybody about fights and laying gloves on and stuff like that. Going along with that boxing theme, that was like a heavyweight taking on a bantamweight, because they just absolutely steamrolled us. If that was a boxing match, the referee would have stepped in and stopped it, because it was night and day, the performances between the two. I mean, again, we talked about during the game that anybody looking at that game in isolation and not understanding where these two teams are, you would forgive thinking that Brighton are sitting at the top of the table with the type of football that they were playing, knocking it around, keeping it, attacking. And we just had zero effort to get forward, zero effort to press, to close down. Whereas every time they had the ball, they were streaming forward. Whenever we had the ball, which wasn't very often, they were streaming back. They just, to sum it up perfectly, like what you said, Chris, they wanted it more than us. And that, for me, as Decker said, is massively, massively not acceptable. You cannot forgive a lack of effort and a lack of commitment.
We'll take it right back. I want to take it all the way back to last night. Bessie, I'll come back to you. We'll go full circle on this one. But obviously that result last night for us was a great result with Leeds winning, because if Fulham had won that, then you might as well just put the final nail now at coffin last night on Friday night. But that result last night, you would hope going into that, going into that game that you would expect something, expect some form of improvement, some form of fight. But there wasn't even an ounce of that, Bessie. Nothing, absolutely nothing. It was like that was like a pre-season game or an end of season game where you've secured your place in the Premier League and you've got nothing left to play for. You're sat in 14th position. You can't physically get relegated. We're still in a huge chance to get relegated, because Fulham are the informed side. And I know the last couple of results that they have obviously been on the end of feet, but footballing wise and how they're playing and fighting for each other as a club is a complete polar opposite of us right now.
Yeah, totally. And you're right, that result last night, seeing that result last night, it gave, I mean, I'm only a fan. I'm just a fat bastard that sits here and watches the games on me iPad.
I was sitting here, a fat bastard that stands on the side.
But I was sitting here thinking, like, right, this is and I didn't have any faith that it would happen. But you've got to, you recognise that that's a chance. The players must have been sitting there before the game tonight thinking, right, in the dressing room saying to each other, this is a chance to go 5 points ahead of Fulham with a game in hand. This is a chance to really open something up. The problem, and this isn't, I'm very keen to kind of state whenever I'm not trying to make excuses here. Brighton were in the same position as us. Brighton were on the same points as us. Brighton will have seen that result last night and gone, right, this is our chance to really, and they won last weekend against Southampton as well in a kind of derby of sorts. So, and that's the difference. Brighton tonight looked like a side who wanted to play in the Premier League next year, whereas Newcastle looked like a side who didn't know how to play in the Premier League next year. That to me, they look like they're already down. And it sounds just like a stupid thing to say with 9 games to play and with 2 of the bottom 3 as it is left to play and Burnley left, and Newcastle's players, the way they kind of held themselves, the way they carried themselves tonight, they look as if they're already down to me. And last weekend, Chris, you asked us, or maybe on Monday night, you asked us that if Newcastle dropped in the bottom 3, are they down? And I said no. But now I think, yeah, if we go in the bottom 3, or when we go in the bottom 3, that's it.
Well, Decker Bessie's just said there, we've still got two of the bottom teams to play. But our last handful of games have been against the teams in the lower half of the table, so you would expect to get some form of display. I know we picked 2 points up, and people are going on about these 2 points, like we should be happy with these 2 points. No, far from it. We should have at least got a single win from that. And you look, and like I said, Bessie's mentioned the two bottom teams that we've still got to go up against. I'd still put my money on those winning.
I think if we cast our mind back to that Sheffield United performance, they hadn't won a game. Sheffield United hadn't won a match, and they outplayed us from minute 1. That should have been his last game at that point, I believe. In terms of the starting point of when it was all going wrong, but it was all going wrong the minute you walked in the door. But you know what I'm trying to get at. We won't win again with him in charge. It's as simple as that. You couldn't be bottom of the league. You couldn't then beat second bottom of the league. You've then played a team that's in and around you, and you've been completely outclassed. This isn't
3-0.
3-0. I mean, the people 3-0
not a
at our
single
place,
shot,
right?
not a single shot on target, Digger.
25% or perhaps less possession come the end of the game. We've seen the club lose so many times, right? We're used to it. But as I said before, there's a manner in how you you lose a game. If we score a couple of goals there and they're offside, or we're scoring an own goal and we get beat 1-0 and we've created chances, and you can come away and go, yeah, I'm upset we've lost, but God, we'll really give them a good game. We have just been battered there, battered.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And I think this is the first game where, and I'm not saying everyone agreed with this here when I said it last week, but I still felt to the degree that the players were playing for him. For all it wasn't great, but I mean, they were still playing for him. This is the game for me where I think even the players aren't playing for him now. And we'll have, as Bessie's mentioned, we'll still have Sheffield United to play. We'll still have Fulham to play, right? There is games there that we should be looking to go and win. We have to change manager now in order to have any fighting chance of staying in the division.
You say that, Decker, that there's games that we can win, but we're now coming into a run where we play teams that are now sitting at the top of the table. And it's only those 2 games against Sheffield United and Fulham that you can look at and think these are the ones where we might take something. And then we'll last
Burnley as well.
Yeah, Burnley's in there, but we've got Spurs, Liverpool, Arsenal, Leicester, Man City.
I'm with you, but that's 9 points there. That's nine. That's enough. I'm telling you now. Just 1 win is probably enough, to be really honest with you. But
hence why tonight was so important.
Well, it was.
Absolutely.
It was.
Yep.
But keeping him in charge, you will not win any of them games. You will not beat Burnley. You will not beat Sheffield United.
Especially when you look at those stats that you've just said there, the fact that we've had 25% possession, we've had no shots on target. These are the stats that
one, to be fair, I think it was 1.
Fuck, I can't even remember we're having a shot on target other than that Fraser one hitting the post. But these stats aren't in isolation. These stats have happened multiple times across this season. We've gone on game after game after game where we haven't had shots on target. We haven't had possession. But Bruce has somehow survived all of those because he's had his friends in the media talking him up about he's the right man to get we're out of that. It's clear as day to us as fans that watch Newcastle week in, week out, that he is not the right man. He's not the man to do it. He needs to go. It's as simple as that. He needs to go. As we've already said tonight, he needed to go weeks ago, but it hasn't happened. Will Ashley do it? Will he finally, come out and actually give us a fighting chance to stay up? Because, as Bestie's just said, with Steve Bruce at the helm, there is no way that we can survive. And anybody, surely there can't be anybody out there, I don't care what pundit you are, you cannot look at that performance, look at that league table, look at all of those stats and believe that Steve Bruce has got enough to keep us up. It can't happen.
I've just listened to everything that you said there, and I just want to confirm that, are you saying right now that Newcastle should be in the top 6 of the Premier League?
I'm amazed that we're not bottom of the bottom 6 in the league when you look at that. Of course, as fans, we'd love to be within the top 6 of the league, but it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen in a million years. As long as Mike Ashley is the owner of this club, as long as the club is run the way it is with an owner that is so, apart from the team, and a chairman that, if that's what his job description is, that hasn't been seen all season in there, and the type of appointment that they're making is Steve Bruce.
Well, Mark, I'm going to interrupt you because Steve Bruce's interview is about to come up any minute now. So we'll do what you normally do. So if the interview does come on, would you mind obviously just popping yourself on mute and go and listen to the shite that he's got to talk?
It'll
just make us more angry if I have to.
Yeah, no, but yeah, you listen with me if you can do for us. Bestie, Luke Edwards has just tweeted out there that is a result which will get a manager sacked.
Also,
do you agree?
Soon.
Absolutely.
Got COVID.
Yeah.
Lucas, is he?
Yeah.
I
just said on there. Yeah.
I've not seen. I get well soon. Look, mate, it's not much. I obviously had Corey about a year ago now. It's not much fun, like. But yeah, he's right. He's dead right. That is exactly the kind of result that sees, especially when you look at Newcastle's form and throughout the game tonight. We had stats popping up about touches in the box and points won from a losing position, and you get the usual stuff with possession and shots on target. And Newcastle, by every single metric possible, are an awful football club. I mean, yeah, I'll go above Bruce, above the players, to the boardroom, to the owner. We're rotten from top to bottom.
Yeah, we are.
And I was just thinking before we started there about Fulham away a couple of years ago, the 4-0 win at Craven Cottage. Last game of the season at Craven Cottage, ironically, which is what we've got again this time. And how the jubilation, Rondon got his goal, they've beaten 4-0. And there was that kind of the promise, the promise that we've had a couple of years. We'd been promoted for 2 years by that point. And we'd had a couple of pretty tough years where the football wasn't always great, and we kind of had to batten down the hatches a little bit. And this could be the point at which we'll go, right, here, we'll kick on. And look what happened. Here we are, nearly 2 years afterwards, about to drop in the bottom 3 of the table. I've no doubt I would put marvellous money on us getting relegated this season. I'm convinced. There's nothing I've seen tonight in particular that's going to convince me that we aren't going to do anything but finish third bottom at the very, very best. And it obviously the huge problem with Newcastle is Mike Ashley. You've got Lee Charnley there, who people talk about as if he's a nice bloke, and maybe he is, but he's not. He's not right for the job he's in. He's not an appropriate appointment.
Bessie, you can say that. Bessie, you can say that he might be a nice bloke, but as a fan base, how are we to know that he's a nice bloke? Because we don't hear from him. We don't hear from him.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And he every now and then he'll go in the matchday program and say, "Oh, this is the start of a new dawn. We're gonna speak more to the fans. We're gonna," and it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen at all. But yeah, it's rotten. But from the appointment of Steve Bruce, July the 17th last year, was it the day after my son was born? He got the job, and it was so. It didn't take the shine off Alfie being born. Obviously, that would be a bit of a ridiculous thing to say. But I remember watching playing a pre-season game, and I was sitting with my sister-in-law at my house, and she was on about getting out the Bayern in Newcastle kit, and I was thinking like, "Oh, Steve Bruce is gonna." It's Steve Bruce. It's such a fall, and it just.
It's Steve Bruce that's taken a comfortably mid-table team, spent over £100 million, and is now going to see us get relegated.
So this is the thing, Mark. I'll switch around, come back to you, Decker. But the pundits always come out and say, "Well, he's doing no worse than what Rafa is." Yeah, right now he is. I think it's evident right now that he is nowhere near the caliber of Rafa Benitez. Never was, never has been. Never will be. And that's what pisses us off the most as a fan base. We saw the project. We saw the improvements under Rafa Benitez. And most likely he probably did have a worse squad than this with the players in there. Bruce is... So obviously you remember when the likes of Dalglish came in and ruined Newcastle United's team. Bruce has done exactly the same in regards to that squad that was getting built and what was happening at the club, because you could see us moving on. Bruce has literally ruined anything, any hope that we've had of going forward.
Yeah, and I think it's just so predictable, and I think that's why I get it. I'm so annoyed, and I think we're all annoyed. Like, it was so predictable that, it doesn't really matter how much money you spend on players, which we have spent. To be fair, Bruce has had quite a bit of money spent, you would say, certainly by our terms anyway. But it doesn't really matter if you give Bruce £1 billion, does it? Really, it wouldn't matter, because at the end of the day, the person that you're putting in charge to coach them players, motivate them players, is simply not up to the task. So it doesn't really matter what players you've got.
You could put Bruce in charge of Man City now and they wouldn't win the league.
Oh, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Totally agree. And we all know that we were incredibly lucky to get Rafa. I mean, unbelievably lucky. To get him.
Us. Yeah,
of course. I mean, that's ridiculous, really, to think that he would even do that. And we would get that we were lucky, and I think that's why it hurt so much when he left. But can you, apart from the two people that were just mentioned there before, like Ashley and Charnley, can you even imagine or believe that you've had Rafa Benitez and that's your choice? You believe that you've lost him, okay, right? Whatever the reasons why he left, right? Whatever. But you honestly believe that the best option available to take the club forward is Steve Bruce? I mean, isn't that just unbelievable? And Bestie said it while we were doing the live, is yes, of course, we want him sacked, but have we got any faith that they'll get the right man the next time? In track record proves. You've got your Joe Kinnears, you've got your Pardew's, you've got your McLarens, you've got Steve Bruce. The list is so long of dreadful appointments. And that doesn't give us any faith. But at the minute, I would take anyone at the moment to try and get over this line here of staying up.
I'm picking up some of the quotes which are coming in, but we will come to Mark when Bruce has finished talking. But I'll come to you, Bestie. Some of the quotes which are coming in, Bruce has basically took a massive U-turn now, and he's blaming himself for this. Is Bruce now looking for that payout?
Nah, I don't think is he looking for the payout. Well, he's certainly not.
Is he basically putting the blame on his own doorstep now to force the owner into making that decision for him?
It's like, when you've got when you watch You've Been Framed and there's a kid in the fridge with a face full of chocolate, and the mum goes, "Oh no, it wasn't me. I want chocolate." Bruce is like that. He's got a fucking face full of chocolate, and he wants £4 million in his back burner. he won't do the honourable thing. He won't step down, in spite of professing that he wants the best for the club. If he wanted the best for the club, he would come nowhere near the job to start with. I think we all know he's going to get the £4 million payout. It's just when.
100%, yeah. He's definitely getting it. Just, like you said, just a matter of time now.
And I'm not a vindictive man, but I said during the game that I cannot wait. I really hope that I'm in the same stadium as Steve Bruce at some point. Steve Bruce next season, beg pardon, at some point. Because by Christ, I'll lose my voice.
Mm-hmm. So, Mark, I can see that you put your headset back on there. So I'm guessing Bruce is finished, has he, or is he just still chatting shit?
Yeah, just about finished there. So, as you just said there, Chris, he did, I guess, probably for the first time in that we've heard from him after a match, is taking responsibility for the performance. He's made no excuses again, which is probably a first for him, because he normally always blames somebody, something, or anything other than himself. But he's basically just admitted that it wasn't good enough. Brighton were for the better team. They had possession. We didn't do enough when we had it. Not that we had it very often, and that we didn't do enough when we didn't have the ball. Which, with anybody with two eyes in the head, or even, one eye or blind, they could see that without needing Steve Bruce to say that Brighton were far better. He did very right at the end of his interview when they were talking about Isaac Hayden, who they're saying it's a knee injury. So when we were thinking it was maybe a leg break or something like that, they're saying it's his knee. So they don't know how bad it is or anything like that. But he did allude to the fact that when Hayden got injured, that it disrupted and we were just trying to hang on to get to half time. And then at half time, he wanted to then make a change to then get us back into the game. And the fact that they scored just before half time then ruined that for us. So he was trying to actually be a little bit magnanimous in defeat, to say that Brighton were just much the better team. But then he still came back to making an excuse as to why we went one nil down just before half time.
So I think you might have missed this though, Decker, before you join. I think you might have missed this before. I think you switched off just before the end of his interview. He said there at the end that once again he's reiterated that he wouldn't walk away and he won't give up the fight.
Absolutely
in this job. Decker, just a handful of hours ago, yesterday, he said that he wanted the best for this football club. The best for this football club is him not being head coach.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And I think, that it's just what a pathetic thing to say, isn't it? I just want the best for the club. It's such a shit thing to say, isn't it? Like,
do you know what annoys you the most?
Doesn't mean it. He clearly doesn't mean it.
The thing that most annoys you the most, he doesn't need this money. He's had lots of payouts in his career, lots and lots of payouts. He's already a rich man. He doesn't need another payout, because if he was a supporter of this football club, as he keeps on saying, he's one of us, and war flags are put a display outside of St. James's Park tonight saying that he's not one of us. This is an ex-Sunderland manager who basically slated Newcastle fans, as he was Sunderland manager as well, with the way that we went on with the celebrations after the 5-1. Steve Bruce is not, he doesn't have the best interest in this football club at heart. I'll come back to you there.
No, he probably doesn't. He probably doesn't. And I think to have any respect for him, which, I mean, no one's got respect for him now, but would be if he left, wouldn't it? It would be if he held his hands up and says, "Do you know what it is? I'm not up to the task," and he left. But he said time and time again that he's not going to do that. The club needs to take this decision out of his hands. Like, he needs to be sacked by tonight. End of. There's an international break coming up. They've got 2 weeks to get a man in, or anyone. Fucking hell, just get someone in, and give them an opportunity to have time with the players, because there'll not be that many people going international duty, right? That we've got. So, because to me, what on earth is the point now? This happened under McLaren. I remember, where I'm sure, if memory serves us correct, that we had an international break and we all thought this will be when we'll do it, and we didn't. And I think they sacked in the game after, which was Stoke. I think we came back and got beat off Stoke, and then we bladdered them, which was, you're just wasting time. There is absolutely no way that this damage can be repaired under him. He has to go.
The fixtures just came on the screen there, and out of the next 7 games, we've got one team that's in the bottom 10. The rest in the top 10 in the Premier League, which is massively worrying. That
you can't see where the results are going to come from, other than that Burnley game that you mentioned. You're then going into those last 2 games of the season,
unless there's a change.
Yeah, because and I know we've talked about Rafa, and Rafa was amazing, right? I get that, but Rafa took over with 10 games to go when we were absolute dog shit, right? And we drew against Liverpool away. We got beat off the Champions League 1-0 or something. Like we had a fantastic run in them 10 games.
Yeah. The game against Leicester, we shouldn't have lost that because it was an offside goal. We shouldn't have lost that.
We drew against Man City when Aguero was offside. We drew against Man City at home. There was so many improvements. There really was. And I'm not saying I'm not saying the team perhaps at that point. I mean, we had decent players then. We had Ronaldo and things like that. But getting that new manager in, as I'll keep saying and I'll keep repeating myself, if we do not do it, we will lose all them 9 games. All the games that you mentioned there, Mark, about Leicester's and Liverpool, we'll lose them all if Bruce stays in charge. Yeah. If we sack him now, we have an opportunity to gain enough points to maybe just to stay in the league.
Basically, we go right back we'll go right back to the game where we lost against Norwich last season. And we done a podcast after that game saying, sack him now. Sack him now was the title of the podcast. And we've done another podcast titled the same thing just last week. Fans saw it coming. We knew exactly what was going to happen. The minute he got appointed. Yeah.
Look at the tweet. It's been shared a fair bit the last week or two. The tweet where the club announced that he was appointed, like I said, July 17th last year.
It's not a single positive comment, is it?
And everyone said the same thing. Everyone's saying the same thing. From a fan perspective, obviously, some journalists, some ex-colleagues of Steve Bruce weren't saying that, but we all saw it coming. Going back to the point you made earlier, whatever Steve Bruce did or said as a Sunderland manager, it doesn't bother me in the slightest bit. He was known to be a Newcastle fan. So he's saying whatever he can to get the fans on side. The worst thing Steve Bruce did for me, after he lost Aston Villa job, or he lost his parents, didn't he? Either at Villa or just after he left Villa.
Yeah.
So Sheffield Wednesday said, "Look, take the time you need, mate. Have some time away." He was at Sheffield Wednesday for like 2 or 3 months and fuck them off to come to us.
Bin them off, yeah.
And that's worse to me than anything he said or did as Sunderland manager.
It shows you the character of the man, doesn't it?
It does. He's done a fantastic turn by Sheffield Wednesday. A really good club. A club, for me, should be a Premier League club. I've always liked Wednesday. And for him to behave in the way he did towards them, and I've read quite a few bits and pieces where the resentment of Wednesday fans for him doing that really comes through. That they do not like the man. Yeah, if anything, from what we've seen, they've had a lucky escape, to be honest with you. But yeah, that speaks to me more, and I dislike him more for that than anything that he said about Newcastle when he was Sunderland manager, because he's got to say stuff like that to get the fans on side. So it'll be the same if like Lee Howie became Newcastle manager. He would be going, "Oh well, I've never really been a Sunderland fan that much, and I want," because you say stuff like that to get the fans on side. That you take a lot of pinch of salt, like, but yeah, what he did to Sheffield Wednesday to me is a mark of the man.
It speaks volumes about him, and it goes to show that the only thing that Steve Bruce cares about is himself and his bank balance. He couldn't care less about anything else, as long as he is getting money, getting paid. Then he'll give you lip service.
Well, apparently,
all of the excuses,
apparently at full time, when the full time whistle went, both Carroll and Dwight Gale did not look happy. They stormed down the tunnel. Apparently, didn't acknowledge anybody, and they stormed down that tunnel. So it was
clear to see they needed to come on the pitch. Clear to see that we needed an attacking presence.
You would hope that right now in that dressing room, there's going to be some arguments in there right now. And they're going to make it uncomfortable for the manager if they haven't already done so.
But I didn't see that. I did not see that there was anybody on that pitch that cared.
We didn't see that. We didn't see that against Southampton when Lascelles went and Yanmat was punching walls. We didn't see that on the field then. I think you would hope that there's something happening right now.
I think have we not had a turning point like that? hasn't obviously worked. Like
probably when Bruce threw Richie under the bus, you probably think that what was the turning point, because Lascelles said, "I don't even know what happened on the field." So you think that would have been the starting point?
And I'm sure I had heard that there was like a massive sort of, debate or meeting between the players of like, right, lads, this is not on. This is. I may have been the Sheffield United game even. I don't know. But at the end of the day, as we've said time and time again, right? He has not got the ability or the capability to be able to change what this run of form that way in. It's 2 wins in 20 games, man. 2 wins in 20. Like, when's it enough? Is it 2 in 25, 2 in 30? When does it become enough? And the bottom line is this has to be it. In order for us to stay in this division, he has to be gone by Monday.
There's no other club in world football that would allow a manager to go on a run like this and not interject, not do something about it. What did we do? We'll give him an extra coach. We brought in a helping hand for him.
There's rumours last week that the reason that Graham Jones came in, because Ashley was hoping that was going to put Steve Bruce's nose out of joint even more than what it already is. To the point where Bruce just the point where Steve Bruce would go, "Nah, I'm not putting with this. I'm going to leave." Bruce has dug his heels in. We can see the chemistry between those two. Oh, yeah. It's toxic. It's toxic between those two on the sideline. We've seen videos in the past, and we saw it tonight where Jones is jumping in front of Bruce to give some sort of direction to the likes of players and substitutions. And I think one of you, I can't remember which one it was. I think it might be Newcastle when Hayden went down where Jones went on the field.
He ran on, yeah. And do you know another worry I've got, right? And this is no disrespect to Jones, right? Sacking Bruce and giving it to him at the end of the season is no good either, by the way. We need fresh blood. We need 100%. Somebody completely new. Because giving it to Jones to the end of the season is not enough. It really isn't. I know I've just said 5 minutes ago I'll take anyone, but like probably take me Mark, to be honest with you, in charge. But like giving it to Jones is not the answer. Like, it's really not.
No, of course not.
It's really not.
There's one man for the job, but there's no way that our owner will go knocking on his door.
Do you mean Rafa Benitez?
He knows the club inside out. He knows the players. They all respect him. The majority of them would run through brick walls for him.
Do you know what it is, Mark? You said that. You were just about to say the players respect him, right? Then you stop yourself. And the players who I think you're thinking about who won't respect him, I don't want them at this club.
Yeah.
So you're talking about John Joe Shelby.
That's it. It's the ones that he's put their noses out of joint because they weren't good enough for him. They didn't show him the commitment. They didn't show him the levels that he expected. And then you've got other players that obviously haven't played for him, that have came in the time that he's been away, either this season or last season. So don't know him, but at least they know who he is. They know his reputation. They know the manager that he is, what he's capable of.
If Rafa Benitez came in, and it's not going to happen, right? It's definitely not going to happen. Far from it. But if he came in, you know for fine well those players would know that they're going to be expected to give a lot more than what they're giving right now, because Rafa wouldn't let that slip. We were on the end of 3-0 victories, and Rafa was on the field telling players that they did something wrong. 100%. Bruce, we're on the end of a 3-0 defeat. Bruce is telling players what they've done well.
Go to that Leicester away game. The footage was shared for years. You remember there's about 15 tackles in a row. Everyone's clattering everybody. Even Atsu's getting stuck in. Like, look at that performance tonight. Do you know what I mean? Look at that performance. I've said this phrase too many times. I'm sorry, but night and day. It's night and day, man. Like, and as we'll keep saying, if he remains in charge, he hasn't got the ability to change it. We'll be here. We'll be sitting doing another live stream, watching the live game. The front three hasn't got a fucking clue what they're doing. No one's closing. We'll look so lazy, so tired. We'll look like we've played 4 games in 4 days. That's what we'll look like. We'll just look.
It's because there's a complete lack of urgency. We all know there's a massive lack of pace within our back four, within the midfield. The only pace that we've got is out wide, or Miggy when he plays through the middle. There's nothing. The pace that we had at left back and right back, the right back's been sold and the left back's now sitting on the bench. So all of that outlet that you can get is gone. It's tonight. I mean, I said it during the live stream, is that it literally looked like the players were just going through the necessary steps. They were just fulfilling the fixture. And Chris, you alluded to it, that it seemed like it was an end of season affair or a pre-season where you've just got to make it through the 90 minutes. You're trying to improve your fitness levels or something like that. The result doesn't matter. This result tonight is huge.
Tonight was huge.
Absolutely
Massive.
huge.
Massive.
We said it before the game that it was a massive, massive game. You're now sitting on the back of a defeat, and a heavy defeat, where we're now sitting on a minus 20 goal difference, which is the equivalent of, an extra load of points when you're down at the bottom of that table. Because that can be the difference between staying up and going down. And we have taken a hammer in, and it's quite simply not acceptable.
I think the worrying thing is, before we wrap it up tonight, I think the worrying thing is that if Bruce doesn't get sacked in the next 48 hours, he's going to be the manager next season in the Championship. And that's what worries me the most.
I don't think so, I honestly don't think so.
Yeah,
what do you mean?
I think relegation, let's just say he stayed, surely relegation, that wasn't on the job description. I
don't think it will, mate. I don't think it will, because he's still got a contract. We're still going to have to pay him.
No, I think...
I think...
But I was going to mention the quotes that he said this. I think I put them in the group, that he said that I feel the conversation's already kind of happened. Because he kind of said it, right? That I haven't been good enough, and if them decide that, it's for people above me that's going to decide that. It just seemed to me as if
he said that a few times though, Decker, this season. He's done it a few times where he said it's not his decision to make.
He has said that, but he's never taken the responsibility for the lack of a performance on his shoulders like he has tonight. It's always been an excuse, or it's always been somebody else's fault.
I come back to what I said earlier on. Do you not think it's at the point where now Bruce is probably fed up with this, where he's rightly getting shit for the results, but he's at the point now saying, right, I'll deflect blame to myself. I'll absorb that, and that might force the owners to make that decision. That's what I think it is.
He might be sitting there thinking, wait, lockdown's going to come to an end before too long. I could have £4 million in my back burner. I can go and fucking sit in the back bar. I can get Colin seafood, get myself full of crab sticks, and sit have a nice summertime. I don't know, he's the man.
He doesn't want to be here when the fans are loud on the ground.
Oh, I'll go back. I really hope he is in some capacity, not as our manager. I hope he gets who's struggling. I hope he gets a Birmingham job, and we get them first game of next season. By Christ, it'll be satisfying.
Can you imagine him going back there?
Oh God, he's been there, hasn't he? Where hasn't he been there?
Yeah.
He burns his bridges. He burns his bridges at every club he's been to, man.
Rotherham, let's say Rotherham. Rotherham aren't a club I dislike. They're just deep league table areas there. I know.
What's Rotherham done to deserve Steve Bruce?
I know. What do we do to deserve Steve Bruce?
The Chuckle brothers are Rotherham lads as well. And, that's a childhood. You can't really wish my name. Forest, Forest Chris Hughton say you get a sack. Huddersfield, been there. Fuck me, he's shit, isn't he?
He's been everywhere.
Shit.
He's been everywhere, and it all ends up the same way.
He's been everywhere.
He has a decent one season, and then it falls to pieces.
I tell you, I needed a laugh there. I'm sorry, because I'm fucking livid here, to be honest with you. But
I'm trying to rein it in right now.
There's someone in the comments who's said "fuck Newcastle," and I'm thinking I can't tell if he's a Newcastle fan or not, because that's how I feel as well.
No, I've put him in time out, mate.
How you been down? Nice one. I saw it and I thought, I agree, but I don't know whether or not.
That's the level that we're at, though, isn't it? Because you, as Newcastle fans yourself, that's the thoughts that you have. Because what is the point when you when you're served up this drivel week after week after week? And I mean, again, I didn't mention this, but in his interview, he talked about the last few weeks we've seen improvement, but then he quickly caught himself and he said, well, a little bit, because it was as if he was trying to big up the fact of the difference that we've played in. And yes, there has.
He must have strong arms, the fat bastard, to catch himself.
But Christ, anyway, it's just not quite simply not good enough.
Well, any sort of improvement that Steve Bruce saw over the last X amount of weeks, that's just literally been pissed up the wall tonight.
Well, Bestie said it last week. Bestie said it. I'm sure he said this, that if you beat Brighton, them draws that we've had become good draws, good points.
Yeah.
But now them draws.
This result ended in what the last two meant.
Yeah, and he's absolutely right, because you're unbeaten in 3, and you've won your last game, which of course makes them draws so much better. And then but he was using this statistic of, we've been on a good run of late. You know what I mean? We've ended with a bad run. They kept saying that, which was another annoying point he kept making.
Is this when he was conveniently forgetting the Crystal Palace result?
Palace game, yeah, he forgot Palace existed.
That's right.
And it's another thing that just pisses you off. But my point to use for 3 now, because you know my say on this, right? I believe he's gone, right? I reckon he won't see Monday. Bestie, do you think he will? Do you think he'll still be here? Because Spurs is my next game, I think. So will it be? Could be a battle of the managers there, right? Jose against Bruce. Chris, do you think he'll still be here?
I think he's gone. I think he's gone.
Gone. And
Mr.
Walker?
I think his body language tonight looked like somebody that was going.
He's got to be a dead man walking. He's got to be, man. He's got to be.
I think he'll still be here.
I do. I obviously don't want him to be.
Yeah.
I felt like this, like I feel now, before when Pardew was manager for about a year, and if he just wouldn't get shot. And honestly,
it was a different reason for Pardew, though, as we discussed the other.
That's right.
Pardew didn't get sacked, did he? He went.
Do you know what it is, though?
But that's because they couldn't afford to sack him. Because
I want to flip around. I want to flip around a little bit. We're gonna have to end this one soon, but I want to flip it around. It wasn't. This is worse than what it was on Pardew.
Oh yeah, absolutely it is. Pardew never had he did have in relegation fights, but never once where you thought, Christ, we are down. I mean, the 2012, 2013 when the beat QPR 2-1.
What flirting with the weren't we?
I remember we beat QPR 2-1. Lloyd Remy scored a penalty for them, and I think Gouffran scored for us after Bosingwa had a stinker, and we finished. We finished like 40th, 50th, whatever it was. But we weren't safe until his 37th game, and that's as. And Pardew, don't get us wrong, Pardew was shite for the most part. That once he's finished 5th. Other than that, he was pretty desperate for the most part. Steve Bruce, and I've seen it a few times in the comments tonight on the live stream and on this one. I've never disliked a Newcastle manager as much as I dislike Steve Bruce.
I'm with you, mate.
I've never ever, and for a supporter who are supposed to be so, if it's not a Geordie, they don't want you. The kind of Geordie nation, all that shit.
Well, Bessie, we'll go back to what Merson said tonight, and it was up and down with Merson, where he slagged off, then he give a little bit of praise, and he slagged off, give a praise, and sagged off, and give a little bit of praise. It was up and down, right, in 30 seconds of what you're saying. But what he said, the owner's a Londoner. Nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do with it. I couldn't give a shit where he's from. It's what he does with the football.
It's got nothing to do with where they're from. They hate the owner because he's a Londoner, but they want to get a fucking murderer in charge from Saudi Arabia. Great.
Didn't Merson? So Merson said there about him being a Londoner. A breath just before there, he's mentioned how much we love Les Ferdinand. Do you know what I mean? Like in the same sentence, he's saying they didn't like Ashley because he's a Londoner, but they love Les Ferdinand.
If Les Ferdinand, if Robert Lee, if Warren Barton, if any of old, if any. Glenn Roeder just died a couple of weeks ago. He was loved. He was loved at Newcastle as a player. He was captain, as a manager. He wasn't from any one postcode.
Because we do not care.
It's lazy shit. It's lazy fucking rubbish.
You can come from Mars as far as I'm concerned. As long as you do.
Once again, like I said, that interview was so up and down. In the same breath, he went. Basically, what he was alluding to was the only manager Newcastle fans to give a chance to is Rafa Benitez, also not from Newcastle.
Exactly.
I said that as well.
But the reason we gave him a chance and cared so much about him because he got it. He understood what we as fans, what we wanted to do. He understood the area, the passion that we have for this club, and that we just want to try and show some ambition. We just want to try and get up the table. We don't expect to do it, but we do expect somebody to at least try and do it. That is not too much to ask.
Yeah, I agree. Right. I'm going to call it night, lads. I'm pretty sure we could have gone on for hours and hours, but we're just going to wind ourselves up and wind everybody else up who is watching or listening. It's Saturday night. go and enjoy the rest of your nights, everybody. If you're all listening to this on an audio podcast on a future date, I hope we haven't depressed you too much. Don't let it affect you. Don't. It's not affecting Steve Bruce. He doesn't give a shit. Probably because he's getting £4 million at the end of this. But Newcastle United will still be here, albeit an absolute shell of what it has been in the past.
And we'll still be here. We'll still be here, won't we, lads? Eh?
We'll still
put in a performance.
We are like the cockroaches that survive the nuclear winter.
We are cockroaches. We are the cockroaches in Newcastle United. No matter what happens, we're still here.
We are the cockroaches of NUFC.
Right. Thank you very much, boys. Enjoy your night. Thanks everybody who has been watching this live stream tonight. There was close to 700 at one point. So everybody who has been watching, please like the video. Please subscribe to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. Please go and just check out the audio podcast as well. We do have lots of audio podcasts coming your way. Plenty more coming. We've got an interview with Ryan Taylor next week, which we're looking forward to. Plus, plenty more in the pipeline. Bessie still hasn't watched episode 1 of the Ryan Taylor podcast.
How have you got Ryan Taylor?
Well, Ryan Taylor actually approached us for part 2, which was amazing.
He did a rough. Ryan Taylor did a rough.
Part 2?
Yeah, there's a part 1 with Bessie. There's a part 1.
Can I get my question in now for Ryan Taylor?
That's come out of the blue.
Can you ask him if he fancies managing Newcastle for nine matches?
Yes, right. Okay, I'll definitely ask him that. He also played for Bruce at Wigan, another team which he managed.
Wigan, yeah.
Yeah, that turned out well, didn't it?
Or Villa, yeah. I was going to say, any other Steve Bruce's old clubs in the Premier League and his Villa and us.
Yeah. But only because they're only in the Premier League because he bloody well left.
Because
when he left, that's when they took the upturn in their form.
Right, I'm interrupting you. Go and enjoy yourselves, lads. Decker, leave work. Go clock out.
Well, I've just put 50 quid on Bruce to be sacked, so fingers
crossed.
crossed.
Stayed there to get overtime payments.
I wish. I get in my car, drive home. You might be sacked by the time I get out of the car. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
I've just had a WhatsApp of me father-in-law there, Roger, who's an absolutely lovely man. Isn't into football at all. Hi, Bestie. I suspect it's still up as match of the day starting. Roger, I have got no interest in match of the day, mate. He's not watching, I know that, but mate, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Bestie, why are you talking to him if he's not watching?
I don't know.
Right. See you later. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you for the next one. Watch what you're doing. Take care of yourselves.
Screw you, Bruce. Screw you.
We're all in this together. Wash your hands.